Welcome back to MUFC versus everybody. I'm Sean. As always, I appreciate you stopping by and checking out the video, hearing my thoughts and ramblings and just incoherency in general on all things United over the last couple weeks. I do appreciate you guys doing that. I love that you guys are checking out the videos and hopefully, engaging. I'd love to hear some comments, hear your guys' thoughts on things as we keep the channel running and see where it goes. Before we get started today, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and go check me out on Twitter, MUFC versus everybody. Today, we're going to take a look at my three thoughts following United's 2-2 draw with Bournemouth. Obviously, we did a match reaction a couple hours after the match. Everybody's emotions are a little high. Everybody's a little just all in their feelings, like I said, and that's okay. It's normal. That's why we love football, because it evokes emotion, right? You can't not care. But United, a lot of the emotions are a bit negative this season, especially. So, as always, before we get started, like, subscribe, and let's kick it off. Before I get into my three thoughts, again, like I did with a couple of the other matches, let's just talk about some of the numbers from this draw at the Vitality Stadium. Starting with possession. It's interesting. I think it's a Dutch thing, and that's not me being stereotypical or anything, but we've seen it with Louis van Gaal. He was very possession. Ten Hag is very similar. He likes to take care of the ball. He prefers to keep the ball on the floor and move it with wise decision making. High percentage passing, creating space. And we had 50% possession against Bournemouth, which is good on paper, right? Louis van Gaal had that famous, look at the numbers kind of a rant, but we don't really do anything with possession. When our players are forced to slow down and think a little bit and try to introduce little tactics, it's like they look like deer in headlights sometimes. And that you can almost tell with certain players that it's like you ever go when you're walking up the stairs, like I do sometimes, like it's like a muscle memory thing, or just in that, like when I go up and down my stairs, I usually do like 2 stairs at a time. When I try to do one at a time, it's like it throws me off for some reason. I don't know why, but it's the same. It's like players like Rashford and Bruno, and I'm not trying to dig them out, I'm just using it as an example. When it's not your natural thing to slow down and think and be careful with the ball, you can tell sometimes they're actively trying, like it's hard work just for them to slow down a little bit. And that's what we get. We have possession, but we don't really do anything because a lot of our players just aren't that great at it. Our shots are not great, of course. We conceded 20 shots to Bournemouth, and we only had 8, so less than half. 2 of our shots were on target, obviously the pen and then the goal, and then Bournemouth had 5 on target, so a quarter of their shots were on target. This does bring our shots conceded, which has kind of been the main number over the last several months, right? How many shots have we conceded? How many shots have we conceded? Well, that brings our conceded in the last 5 matches to like around 130, I think. I think Luton Town have less than that. I think Luton Town have like roughly 40 or 50 less shots conceded as. So they're just, which I mean, to a degree makes sense, because the lower sides are probably going to sit a little deeper and be a little more compact and harder to break down, which obviously we're not good at, especially given who we have in midfield right now and things. So we'll get to that. But that's just not a good look, Considering too, like I said before, context is key, kind of almost like a triangulation of the stats, shots conceded, where are they coming from? How many are on target? Such and such. Well, 12 of Bournemouth's shots were from inside the box. And this isn't just on set pieces, people are getting on headers and things like we've seen in recent matches. No, this is, if you watch the match, they were able to just carry the ball into our area time and time again, almost unchallenged, which is way, way too easy for the opposition to do that. Even a side like Bournemouth, no disrespect. We had 150 more passes and way more completed passes, but again, we just don't do much with the ball. I think, we're not even really get it out of our half very much. I think Maguire had the most passes completed and Mainu had the best completion rate. But that shows that, Mainu was sitting a little deeper. Maguire's obviously defender. Shows we were just trying to get the ball out of our half, but it was slow going. We just couldn't really do a good job of it. Half of our total passes were in our own half of the pitch. So again, context is key. Yes, everyone's completing passes, but what are those passes? Are they progressive passes that move the ball forward, or are they just side to side between defenders, fullbacks, and keeper? You can almost stat pad in that way and make it look like you're completing a lot of passes when you're just hitting 5-yard passes to your defender under a press. Bournemouth fought hard to win the ball over and over again. They had 11 interceptions to our 5. They had more duels won, which again shows just a lack of mentality, a lack of intensity from United. And you could see it. You don't have to look at the numbers to see that the players they looked slow. They just looked lethargic, just almost uninterested, almost like just a little bit of foreshadowing, like they were giving up a little bit. Casemiro only won half of his duels. Wan-Bissaka only won 25% of his ground duels, only half of his aerial duels. Dalot won 5 out of 13 of his ground duels. Dalot was getting work. They were overloading him on that side. He was getting caught between two minds a little bit, and it was difficult for him. But that still, if you're going for 13 duels, you need to do better than win just 5 of them. So we were all over the place in defense. Clueless against the overlap, clueless against the underlap, helpless against an overload between the fullbacks and the wingers kind of doubling up on Dalot, and you can't necessarily look at Camboala or Dalot individually that one's a youngster and one is getting double teamed. It's difficult. And then towards the end, these little chip balls over our defenders to a runner into the box were kind of causing us problems too. So a little all over the place in defense, which makes sense considering just what we've had to deal with right now. And I'm not trying to blame injuries for everything, but it's literally right there for everyone to see that we have a youngster and a player who hasn't played that much, probably a little rusty, and quite frankly has never really been the leader at the back that we've needed to organize things. I mean, these are the kind of mistakes that are going to happen. And can't blame Ten Hag for that. People will say, oh, you can't blame injuries. Well, when defending is a big part of our problem and we literally have no choice but to play Maguire and Camboala, how can that be on Ten Hag? Shouldn't have to tell a 31-year-old defender how to defend. But neither Rashford or Garnacho, this is according to FootMob, neither Rashford or Garnacho had any successful dribbles. One accurate cross from United in the entire match out of 10. Out of 10 crosses, 1 was on target. So we're failing to get the ball to the attackers. We're failing to get the ball into our striker, and the attackers are failing to progress the ball. It was that whole thing, a lot of passes in our half, not many dribbles going into the final third. We got very lucky in some occasions. But this is why Højlund is also struggling. We saw that stat early on of all the strikers in the league early in the season. He had the least touches out of any striker because our attackers, our wingers, our midfield can't get the ball because we don't have the players in midfield, especially who can do that. We've seen a little bit from Kabi. Kabi's not going to be able to pick that incisive pass. He's going to be able to create space for himself. He's going to be able to dribble and carry the ball, which is great. I love it. But he's not the guy who's going to pick that incisive pass that's going to break the lines, go over the top. And we don't have many other players who can do that, maybe besides Bruno, maybe Eriksen. But Bruno can't do everything. Højlund had the least touches of any outfield player to play 90 minutes. Again, we're not getting the ball to Højlund. What is he supposed to do with that? It's not good enough from anyone. I mean, not only do United fans now celebrate winning a soft penalty like it's a last-minute winner in a Champions League final, but we now celebrate not conceding a penalty like it's a last-minute winner in a Champions League final. I mean, I remember sitting there just frustrated as hell when we conceded that. I thought we conceded that penalty, and turns out, it was just outside the box. And not only was just this kind of ripple effect of, but it was just, yes, no pen. And this is where we're at. Context is key, right? This is the context. We are celebrating not conceding penalty. And a lot of it does have to do with how many soft penalties we've conceded recently, but still, we used to celebrate winning matches. Now we celebrate not conceding penalties, and this is where we're at. Fair play to Bournemouth, though, and for Iraola. He has really done a good job with them. He's got them playing really well. He's got Dominic Solanke, 16, 17 goals now in the league. That's like 4th top goal scorer in the league. I mean, who would have thought that? Anybody out there making bets probably kicking themselves for not throwing down a fiver on that early in the season. But let's bring me to number one on my three thoughts. And number one is the players have given up. We've seen it in glimpses and little flashes throughout the season in one or two of these individual players, but they've given up. Roy Keane said it a few years ago. These players are bluffers, and they'll throw manager after manager under the bus. It's up to the players, though, to prove Keno and to prove all of us wrong when we look at them in that light, when we give that criticism, when we demand more. It's up to them to prove us wrong and say, no, I can do this, I can do better. How many times have we seen these players take their foot off the gas in the tail end of the season? They did it every other manager. They did it to Mourinho, they did it to Ollie, now they're doing it to Ten Hag. They're not listening to Ten Hag anymore. We saw it against Chelsea. We saw it today. Ten Hag is on the touchline telling them to calm down. How many times does a camera pan to Ten Hag and you see him going like this? Calm down. Keep the ball on the floor. Relax. Take a breath. Slow things down. He wants us to take care of the ball, play wise, high percentage passes. And the players just aren't doing it. And people can say, it's up to the manager to get him to do that. Again, I've said it many times. I think people are kidding themselves when they say that, because how easy is it to get anybody to do anything? Like, the players have shown that they're not willing to do that for any other manager, but somehow it's Ten Hag's fault. Like, not saying Ten Hag is without blame and doesn't share his fair portion of the responsibility, but I get that the manager does take responsibility, even if things aren't his fault. But at the same time, the players have been getting away with murder for years, and a couple of them are killing the results, they're killing the performance, and they're literally killing their manager's tenure at United. I'm not going to name names. I think we all can speculate, but it's not good enough. Their hearts aren't in it. There's no intensity. The body language has progressed from negative to now it's just indifferent. Like, we would have a run of play, and then the camera would obviously zoom in, and you'd see players like Casemiro, Rashford, they just don't look like they care. They're just this blank stare on their face. It used to be Rashford throwing his arms up, slapping his thighs. Can't even be bothered to do that anymore. Like, it's like really discouraging to watch as a United fan, like, to see the players kind of give up. Because you could at least, right, you as a fan can look at it and say, that's it. But you at least hope the players would try. They're professionals. But to see that, it just kind of sends it home, doesn't it? Honestly, just play the youngsters and bench the underperforming first teamers. At this point, it can't hurt Ten Hag's job, right? I mean, it is what it is. The starting 11, the high-paid players, the Champions League, World Cup winners, they're not doing it. So play the youngsters. We've seen the youngsters actually try, and it makes sense why people aren't performing. For so many years, when the message at United, the message that trickles down from the very top, from ownership, is that top four is all we want. Top four is enough. Is it surprising that the players look like they stop caring when top four is out of reach? When that's the message that they're being told, and the goal is not attainable anymore, then they just give up. Aside from a select few, they just look like they're counting the days until the season ends, and quite frankly, so are a lot of the fans. We are all just like those last week of school before summer break, looking at the clock. You got your foot on the chair, you're like just itching to get out the door, and you're just counting it down. In his post-match presser, Ten Hag stated that his players are better than this, and to that I ask, are they? I'll let you decide. Let me know your thoughts on that. Number two, Ten Hag could be gone. Does not look good for the Dutch manager. I've said in a few videos now that Ten Hag needs to stop trying to force his system onto players who just aren't suited for it, especially given the injuries. Ten Hag talked about in the presser, like, without the injuries, this is who we have. Now you can construe that as him throwing the players under the bus and saying like he doesn't have the players he wants, and we all know that that's part of the reality. But Doesn't change the fact that you can't play out from the back or play a high line with guys like Maguire or Lindelof. You can't get the attackers like Rashford and Garnacho. One's just not up for that kind of system. When Garnacho is young, you can't get those guys to play in a synchronized pressing system. They just aren't. That's just not them. So the problem is Ten Hag's stubbornness in that regard, and we talked about it early in the season. I've talked about it in recent weeks. If he doesn't make a change, if he's going to be stubborn, it could cost him his job. And I think he's coming across more and more like the kind of manager who would rather be sacked knowing that he was sticking to his principles, sticking to his system, than make accommodations and adjust, which is unfortunate for him because he did adjust a little bit last season. We played a little bit more counterattacking football, and things worked because that's what the players are for. That's what these players are good at. And he's not learning. And I get that, is it a waste of a manager to, like, would Spurs fans want Ange Postecoglou to stop playing the style that he's brought to Spurs? Would you want him to play something like Antonio Conte or Mourinho? Because if so, is it a waste of time and is it a waste of Ange Postecoglou's career to come in here and appoint him at Spurs if you're just going to make him change his system? It's the same with United. Obviously, we wanted Ten Hag because of the way he had Ajax playing, but Ajax have a lot better players in that regard than United do. And they are able to play that. They're able to make the third man runs. They're able to play total football. They're able to high press together as a team. We can't do that. So whether it's tactics or team selection or substitutions, nothing is changing. And as a result, nothing is changing. Nothing is changing systematically, tactically, personnel-wise, and as a result, results are not changing either. People have liked to toss out the whole, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I mean, it's Einstein's definition of insanity. It's not like the definitions, but that's being a little pedantic. But at the same time, I hear where they're coming from. Like, I don't think it's something that Ten Hag is doing and expecting results. I think this is why he was brought in. He was brought in to play a system. He's brought in to do what he's doing. He's trying to do it. I think he's hoping that the players will whether it's buy into it, whether they'll learn it or what. But it's that part, something's breaking down at that part of the process, and it's just not clicking. It's playing the same players in the same positions, doing the same exact things week in, week out, and it's just not working. And again, something's got to change. Casemiro's done. Like, that's it. But he was on. Why is he playing a full match these days? He looked done last match. He looked done today. Where's Mason Mount? Mason Mount has come on and looked good, and he was a priority signing under Ten Hag this summer. He's fit. Play him. We need to control the ball a little bit. Now, I don't trust Eriksen against the press, and obviously I don't trust him to defend. He's basically a walking red carpet. Just lay it down and let the opposition walk right by. But in possession, he can pick a pass. He can find a runner. Where's Amrabat? Amrabat was a target for Ten Hag for a long time. He fought for Amrabat. And Amrabat, yeah, he's looked shaky, but at the same time, we need fresh legs at a certain point. And, where are these signings? This doesn't help Ten Hag's case is the point I'm making here. He's doing things and he's hurting himself and he's almost hypocrisizing himself in some of these decisions. And it's going to cost him. Again, injuries and player mentality and player ability play a role, but you have to adjust. Ten Hag isn't adjusted, and it's getting harder and harder to defend him against the Ten Hag out crowd. Press conferences have kind of been a bit iffy as well. I don't look too much at what managers say in press conferences. I definitely don't treat it like it's gospel, like that's how they feel all the time. They're going to say what they say. Mourinho used to do it all the time. He would deflect, do this and that to take a lot of pressure off the players, or if he had a player that he didn't really like, he would throw them under the bus. It is what it is. But managers, that's just part of the job for managers. They're gonna bullshit their way through press conferences 9 times out of 10. But some of his statements, some of Ten Hag's statements, and some of these pressers have become a bit worrying in recent weeks. Tonight, following the match, he talked about the fact that United came back twice from a goal behind, like it was like the best thing ever, like it was the main positive takeaway from this match. I can shake my head, man. Yeah, I just said shake my head out loud like you would type SMH. I'm old. What are you going to do? I mean, I get why he's doing it, right? I get he's trying to support his players. He's trying to steer away from some of the negativity that the media are asking about in these conferences, and he's trying to add some positivity, but it's misguided. It's coming across like a little weak, naive. Sometimes it even comes across as a bit diluted, and it's just not a good look. And what's worse is like we know Ten Hag is actually a good manager, and the comments are starting to come across almost like tonight, especially like he knows that maybe his job isn't super secure. Like it's getting to him, like he's starting to crack a little bit, and I hope not. I mean, obviously, I want Ten Hag to learn and from his mistakes, but the problem is he's not, and the comments he's coming out with more and more, just he's coming across like a guy who's painting himself into a corner a little bit, and he's feeling the pressure, and he's almost like isolated in that regard. He also made some comments about Maguire struggling in the first half that kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. They were a little odd. No one really did well in the first half, so it was a little strange to me that he singled out Maguire. I mean, he did kind of back it up with like, oh, he improved in the second half and he started playing well, but it sounded like one of those like compliment sandwiches, right? You start off with a little positive and then there's like a negative and then another little positive. It was just to me, it felt like a bit unnecessary. I've seen people in this post-match presser that I've seen other people comment that and accuse Ten Hag of throwing Garnacho under the bus. But honestly, looking back at it, I didn't hear anything from Ten Hag that was disparaging about Garnacho or to me sounded like he was throwing him under the bus. All he said was Garnacho didn't really train this week and therefore he didn't have as much energy, and that's why he brought on Ahmad, a little more energy. Obviously, he commented that Bournemouth were finding that space on our right side, inside our half, and Garnacho, because he wasn't as energetic, just wasn't able to kind of help out defensively, and that's why we took him off. I don't hear that and hear throwing him under the bus. I don't hear any of that. It wasn't. I don't know. If you can't say anything about player performances, I mean, what's the point of doing press conferences or anything? So I don't know, man. He just came across a bit stubborn and prickly, and it's getting a little more and more so. And honestly, if you watch the whole press conference, all of this atmosphere that he's putting out, this vibe was exacerbated tonight by him basically just up and walking out of the post-match presser when somebody asked him about United possibly finishing lower than 7th, which would be our worst ever finish in the Premier League. He just kind of was like, I'm not commenting. I'm out. Peace. Very Mourinho-esque and just not a good look any way you slice it. And that right there, I think, is the thing for me that's like he's starting to unravel a little bit. So take this week, take a day, take your bike, go ride around, clear your head, come back, and let's get to work. Number 3, season's done. That's just it. 6 matches to go in the league. We sit in 7th place right now on 50 points. We're tied with Newcastle, who literally just demolished Spurs, if you anybody caught that first thing this morning, and demolished Ange Ball, which I think Ange Ball is just Australian for Spursy. If somebody has a Rosetta Stone, maybe they can help me out and let me know. I don't know. I saw it on Duolingo the other day. So Ange Ball, Spursy. Did it sound Australian? I'm going with it. Newcastle, though, they're well ahead of us when it comes to goal differential. I think they have like a plus 17. We're sitting at a -1, I think. We're 10 points behind 5th place Spurs, and aside from a catastrophic collapse from Tottenham and Villa and even Newcastle, European football looks pretty much like a pipe dream at the moment. This is made more of a reality when we look over our shoulders and see West Ham just 2 points behind us, Moise, and then Chelsea just 6 points back in 9th with 2 games in hand. So if Chelsea win those 2 games in hand, they're sitting 3 points behind us. And this was the team we've been bantering with all season who are now catching up to us, and not at a good time when we're on the decline. So United fans, just let's all stop for a moment and really consider the very real possibility that we may finish mid-table. We could very easily finish 9th or 10th. I think Brighton are on the same points as Chelsea right now too. We could finish mid-table if things don't turn around. If you need a few minutes to process that, I'll give you a second. If you need to go throw up with thinking about that, you go for it. Take a minute. You good? All right. You can come back and rewatch the video if you're still throwing up. We have one win in our last 5 matches, and that was the FA Cup match against Liverpool. We have 3 draws and 1 loss in there as well, and we head into the final 6 matches of the season. We play Sheffield United, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Arsenal, Newcastle, and Brighton. Remember, we rearranged that Newcastle match, and now we have it like 2 days after the Arsenal match. So that's cool. Way to help us out there, Premier League. And I can, honest to God, see us maybe getting out of those. We've got 1, 2, 6 matches. I can maybe see us getting 7 points, maybe 8 points out of that, maybe from those remaining fixtures. Sheffield United, Burnley, I think those are almost wins. I see maybe a draw against Palace, and I think that's it. I don't trust us against Newcastle. I don't trust us against Arsenal and Brighton. I honestly, that could be another draw. That's the maybe 8 part, but I can't see it. And so even if we did, it still wouldn't be enough to, even if everyone else's season ended right now and we got to play those matches, that still wouldn't be enough to catch up to European football. So it's not enough to catch up, and honestly, I'm going to ruffle a few feathers right now. People are going to say, I have a weak mentality, or I'm just giving up, or it's a tin pot mindset. I wonder if it's a bad thing if we don't get European football next season. I'm not saying I don't want Champions League football. Obviously, we all want to play in the Champions League. I've been to a Champions League match at Old Trafford, and I have to tell you, the Champions League anthem does hit different at Old Trafford in person. It's amazing. But does anyone really think we would get very far in Europe if we did qualify next season? I'll do you one better. How far do you think we'd get in Europa League? How far do you think in Conference League do you think we would get? Honest, I think Anderlecht could do us right now. I mean, there's no confidence in this United team. It may be better for the job at hand right now, the restructuring, the rebuild, the getting things behind the scenes in place. It might be better with all that in mind if we don't have the added fixture congestion and pressure that comes with European football while we get back to basics. A lot of this is going to have to do with what happened to Ten Hag. On the side note, I have like this 70 to 80% certainty feeling that we're going to see Graham Potter as manager next season. I don't know why. I just do. Part of it is because I don't know if I'm getting more and more resigned to the feeling that Ten Hag might not be here next season with these results. But anybody else that I would maybe even consider is either heavily rumored to be moving, staying where they are, or is involved in Europe. And I just like the Euros, and that would make it very difficult. So yeah, Graham Potter is the one that I see being available who would come in, and I think that is a very real possibility that we all might need to prepare ourselves for. Getting back to this though, I don't think that European football is for us right now. A fair few players in the squad don't deserve Champions League football anyway. They just don't. If they need to get their wages cut for performances, I know a lot of them lose the wages for not qualifying, and quite honestly, they need that reality check. Sometimes when people care a lot about money and their own kind of individual situation, and I get it, they have lives and whatever, but sometimes people need to get hit in their wallet to wake them up a little bit. And sometimes that's how you get through to people. I wish that we could get to a system where the wages were lower, but there were like incentives. I do see the drawback in that. How selfish would some players get? If they had goal bonuses and whatnot. I don't know, but there's not a perfect way to figure this out, right? Some people suggested wage caps or salary caps. Doesn't work unless every league in the entire world does it, because even if the Premier League and other top leagues in the world do it, and like one Latvian league doesn't, everyone's going to go to the Latvian league and get paid $500,000 a week. It just doesn't work. So don't know if Champions League football is the best for us right now. Obviously, we want it, and obviously, if we got it, everyone would be happy. We'd celebrate. Obviously, we got Europa League. I'd be happy to celebrate it. I don't know how I'd celebrate Conference League, but it is what it is. It's a trophy at the end of the day. So, all right, but those are my thoughts on the match. Players have given up. Ten Hag could be gone, and I think the season is pretty much done. We have the FA Cup to play for. That's pretty much it. And right now, I wouldn't even be surprised if Coventry just kind of knocked us out in the weekend. So we'll see. We'll do a preview of that later on this week, and then obviously we'll come back and do a reaction after that match. Hopefully, a more positive, happy reaction than we've had in recent weeks. But hey, that's United for you, right? It's the hope that kills you. So if you're sensing an underlying theme here, that's kind of the point. There's a theme of futility, capitulation. I like that word. Surrender. Whatever you want to call it. That's kind of the theme of my 3 thoughts today to recap. I call it like I see it, though. I can't help it. Agree, disagree. Let me know in the comments what you think about the match. Let me know what you think about what I think. Let me know overall thoughts in general on United, on our season, our remaining fixtures, transfer business, whatever you want to do. Lots of plans in the future. Hopefully getting some people to join me for the videos. Maybe you want to take a look at, keep sell kind of videos. I know a lot of people do those. Those are kind of fun, though, and it's a good way to get other people involved. Maybe start exploring, doing a live chat situation, and we'll see how it goes. Let me know what you think either way. Thanks for coming back. Don't forget to like the video again if you haven't already. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and don't forget to go check us out on Twitter, MUFC versus everybody. And I appreciate you all, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.